Vatican, October 30th, 1503. You are inside the Apostolic Palace, ceilings stretching upward as if ascending toward heaven itself. Angels and saints stare down from frescoes. Their painted eyes seem to look away for the first time in their existence. The air is thick, soaked with wine, and inside you there's a weight you cannot name, but feel like stone in your chest. 50 women crawling across marble floors, naked, trembling. This is not in some forgotten corner of Rome's dark alleys, not in one of the pagan temples time has buried. This is the heart of Christendom, the house of the man who claims to speak for God. Their knees scrape against cold stone, their breaths short, terror-filled. Cardinals line the walls, crimson robes glowing like fresh pools of blood in candlelight. Some cross themselves so rapidly their hands blur. Others turn their faces away, but their feet remain planted because the doors are locked. Guards stand ready, hands on sword hilts, eyes watching forward. No one leaves, no one speaks. And at the center of it all, elevated on a throne gilded like melted sin, rises Pope Alexander VI, the Holy Father, God's representative on earth. He is smiling, laughing even, leaning forward like a man watching an exciting horse race, pointing, making jokes, placing bets with the man beside him, his son, Lucrezia Borgia, face cold and expressionless as marble. But this is only the opening act. What comes next will be so vile, so violently opposed to every sacred word spoken within these walls, that the Vatican's master of ceremonies, Johann Burchard, a man who has witnessed years of scandals, will later sit in his chamber with trembling hands, knowing what he is about to write may be the most damning testimony ever recorded against the Church. This is the story of a wedding night turned nightmare. A night when two innocent people were destroyed to satisfy the twisted appetites of Italy's most powerful family. A night when the Vatican itself became a theater of hell. The question you should be asking is not how this happened. The real question is, who was forced to live through it? And more importantly, why did everyone just stand there and watch? Look, if you're interested in documented records that textbooks conveniently forget, if you want to understand the real darkness that shaped our world, subscribing to Sable Historians helps us keep digging through archives and uncovering narratives that powerful institutions have been trying to bury for centuries. We're not just telling stories, we're exhuming them from graves. Now let's return to that wedding night. Her name was Lucrezia Borgia. By 1503, this name alone was enough to make nobles cross themselves. Europe whispered it like a curse: poisoner, seductress. The Pope's daughter, moving through marriages like other women, changed dresses, leaving corpses behind each time. But those who truly knew her, the maids who dressed her in the mornings, the ladies-in-waiting who sat with her through long, silent nights, saw something different. They saw a 21-year-old woman with eyes far older than her face. A woman who woke screaming, clawing at her chest, reliving horrors she refused to name. The monster wasn't this woman. She was the prey. Her first husband, Giovanni Sforza, had fled Rome in the dead of night, claiming assassins were on his trail. He wasn't paranoid. He was right. The marriage had been annulled the moment it stopped serving her father's ambitions. Giovanni survived, but only because he ran fast enough. Her second husband, Alfonso d'Aragona, was not so fortunate. He was 19 when it happened. 19 and in love. Real love. The kind that made her smile again. The kind that made her believe she could survive this family. Her brother Cesare Borgia had other plans. Alfonso was strangled on the Vatican stairs. The assassins made sure Lucrezia heard. They made sure his final screams echoed through the corridors so she would understand. Love was a weakness the Borgias could not afford. And now, in the autumn of 1503, the announcement came that made all of Italy hold its breath. Lucrezia Borgia would marry again. This time the groom was Alfonso d'Este, heir to the powerful Duchy of Ferrara, a young prince raised on concepts like honor, duty, nobility. A man who believed his name, his lineage, his ancient bloodline meant something. He tried to refuse, sent diplomats with carefully worded excuses, begged his father to find another alliance, any other alliance, offered bribes, trade agreements, military support, tried everything to escape this marriage. But you did not say no to Alexander VI. The message that reached Ferrara was delivered by a cardinal sweating despite the winter cold. He spoke quietly, but each word landed like a knife. Accept this marriage, or we will erase your family from history. It was not hyperbole. Cesare's armies could destroy Ferrara within weeks. Excommunication would strip the d'Este family of legitimacy, turn allies into enemies overnight. Dynasties centuries old would become footnotes. So Alfonso d'Este packed his things, kissed his mother goodbye, and rode toward Rome like a condemned man walking to the gallows. What he didn't know, what even Lucrezia couldn't fully grasp, was this. The wedding wasn't about politics. It had nothing to do with alliances, trade routes, or military strategies. This was about breaking them both. About teaching every noble family in Italy a lesson, showing them what happens when you think your name, your lineage, your ancient bloodline makes you untouchable. The Borgias were about to prove that when power wants to send a message, nothing is sacred. And if this story doesn't make you pause and realize how easily human dignity can be shredded by those holding the reins, you're missing the lesson that echoes from 1503 to today. Because this isn't ancient history. This is a mirror. December 1503, Alfonso d'Este enters Rome. The journey had been brutal. Frozen mountain passes, roads turned to mud, nights spent in inns where locals fell silent when his name was mentioned. But nothing prepared him for the sight of the Vatican, rising before him like a stone giant, half cathedral, half fortress. Even from a distance, it doesn't look like the house of God. It feels like a predator's lair. Inside, the welcome is crushing. Alexander VI sits enthroned in white and gold, his vestments glowing like molten metal in candlelight. His face flushed red, jovial, pleased. He spreads his arms wide. Welcome, my son. Welcome to Rome. Beside him stands Cesare Borgia, 26, silent, still, already the most feared man in Italy. When Cesare's eyes lock with Alfonso's, the message is clear. You are our property now. What follows is a slow degradation disguised as celebration. At banquets, Alfonso is seated beside prostitutes while clergy watch with barely concealed amusement. On hunting trips, Cesare displays his skill with alarming precision. Every arrow finds its target. Every kill feels less like sport and more like demonstration. At official receptions, Alexander makes jokes about Lucrezia's previous husbands. What tragic fortune. 2 husbands dead before their time. Let us hope the third brings luck, yes? The court laughs. Alfonso sits frozen. At night he is kept in isolated rooms, constantly watched by papal guards. He asks permission to send letters home. The letters are intercepted. He tries to leave quietly. Guards inform him this would not be wise. He is a prisoner, a pawn in someone else's game. Meanwhile, Lucrezia watches from her chambers. She knows something is wrong. Her maids whisper about strange preparations. Women she doesn't recognize are being brought in through secret passages. Cesare walks the palace with that particular smile that makes servants cross themselves. But no one gives her straight answers. The night before the wedding, she cannot bear it anymore. She escapes to the Sistine Chapel. Under Michelangelo's vast ceiling, beneath God's hand reaching toward Adam, Lucrezia Borgia falls to her knees. She doesn't pray for love. She doesn't pray for happiness. She prays for escape. Please, please don't let this happen. The chapel remains silent. When she finally rises and walks back to her chambers, her face is blank, expressionless. She understands now. No one is coming to save her because while she was praying, Cesare and Alexander were finalizing the details. 50 prostitutes, educated, refined women who attended Roman salons, had been carefully selected and brought to secret chambers beneath the palace. Most wept when they learned what the Pope expected of them, but none dared defy the head of Christendom. They were told to wear their finest silks and velvets. They were told they would be part of the wedding celebration. They were not told they would be ordered to remove every layer. They were escorted through secret passages by lantern light, kept separate so they couldn't find courage in solidarity. Servants who witnessed these preparations crossed themselves until their hands cramped. They whispered prayers that stuck to their lips like frost. They knew something unholy was rising within the Vatican walls. And Master of Ceremonies Johann Burchard sat in his chamber, reviewing the next day's protocol. His hand trembled as he dipped his quill in ink. He understood with blood-freezing clarity. What he was about to witness would either be buried forever by the Church or remain as the most damning document in Christian history. The night of October 30th, 1503 was approaching, and it would drag even the Vatican walls a little closer to hell. October 30 begins with bells, ringing across Rome's 7 hills, calling the faithful to witness the papal wedding. Crowds gather in the streets. Inside the Apostolic Palace, Lucrezia is prepared by a dozen ladies-in-waiting. Her dress is silk, woven with gold thread, glowing like liquid flame. Her hair braided with pearls, falling in intricate patterns. Her face powdered, pale, masking the exhaustion and fear beneath. When she looks in the mirror, she doesn't see a bride. She sees a sacrifice. The ceremony takes place in the papal chapel, a room suffocated with gilded walls and sacred paintings. Alexander VI himself presides, his voice booming as he unites Alfonso and Lucrezia before God. Cardinals in crimson robes line the walls, faces transformed into masks of devotion, but something else trembles behind their eyes. Horror. After the vows, guests are directed to the Borgia apartments, corridors magnificent with Pinturicchio frescoes. Stories of saints and heroes spread across walls that will soon witness their own depravity. Tables overflow with roasted pigs, peacocks adorned with feathers, exotic fruits, wine flowing freely from goblets. Cardinals, nobles, Ferrara ambassadors, all carefully selected, fill the room. Alfonso and Lucrezia sit at the head table, trapped in a celebration that already feels unreal. At first, everything proceeds like an ordinary noble feast. Soft music drifts through the air, goblets are raised, hollow compliments exchanged. But as night deepens, the atmosphere shifts. Flushed with wine, Alexander VI grows louder, more exuberant. Then Cesare, silent until now, slowly rises. With a subtle nod, he gives the order. Massive doors slam shut with a boom. Guards take position. Hands on sword hilts. No one is leaving this room. At Cesare's signal, side doors open. 50 women enter the hall, wrapped in velvet and jewels, but unable to hide the terror in their eyes. A silence thick as smoke settles over the room. Alexander VI rises, smiling as if unveiling a masterpiece. My friends, the real entertainment begins now. At the Pope's command, the prostitutes begin removing their clothes. Silk and velvet fall to marble floors until finally they stand completely naked before the assembly. Princes, cardinals, nobles, all frozen in stunned disbelief. A cathedral built for prayer now stares at a scene ripped from a blasphemous dream. Cardinals turn away, trembling fingers making the sign of the cross. Some try to stand to leave, but guards shift forward, making it clear no one can escape. Alfonso sits frozen, color draining from his face. Lucrezia begins to cry. Silent tears streaming down her face, soaking into her wedding dress. Her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles turn white. But Alexander is only beginning. He orders servants to bring baskets of chestnuts and scatter them across the marble. The nuts roll among the horrified guests, echoing like distant thunder. Then comes the announcement that makes even hardened men flinch. The naked prostitutes will crawl on all fours among the legs of cardinals and nobles, collecting chestnuts like animals. The woman who gathers the most will be rewarded with gold silks. What comes next is so extreme that Johann Burchard will later write, he struggled to find words. 50 naked women crawling across the sacred Vatican floor, moving between the robes of church princes, while Alexander and Cesare watch from above, laughing, pointing, placing bets, as if this were cheap brothel entertainment, not the beating heart of Christendom. Some young cardinals, drunk and overwhelmed, join the laughter. Others bow their heads, crushed under the weight of the battle between faith and horror. Alfonso sits motionless, unable to comprehend that this is his wedding feast, happening before the eyes of a man who claims to speak for God. Lucrezia's wedding dress has become a shroud, her tears dried into frozen emptiness. She never imagined they would turn her wedding into a ritual of damnation. The Vatican clocks chime midnight. Alexander raises his hand, silencing the room. The chestnut game is over. Exhausted prostitutes huddle in corners. Wine has soaked into tables. Guests sit frozen, half drunk, half stunned, completely broken. But Alexander is clear-eyed, focused, determined. His next command silences the hall completely. My friends, the sacred duty of marriage must now be fulfilled. But then what he orders crushes whatever remnants of dignity remain. Alfonso d'Este will consummate this marriage with his daughter, not once but 3 times, and not privately. Every witness here will remain in place to verify that the union is irreversibly sealed before both church and world. The hall sinks into horror-filled silence. Even Cesare shoots his father a sharp look, caught unprepared by the purity of the audacity. Alfonso slowly rises, face ashen gray, surrounded by Cesare's armed men, hands on sword hilts. Refusing this order is not an option. He turns to Lucrezia. She trembles like a trapped bird, eyes empty, lips moving silently beneath the guard's lethal stares and the Pope's expectant attention. Alfonso has no choice. He extends his hand. Lucrezia takes it with fingers cold as death. Together they walk toward an adjoining room, a bed, candles, clean sheets, a bridal chamber. But the doors remain wide open. No privacy, no humanity. Those who don't flee are forced to remain in the outer room with full view of what is about to unfold. What comes next is not a union. It is the destruction of 2 people. Witnesses stare in stunned silence. Some whisper desperate prayers. Others weep quietly. Even the prostitutes avert their gaze in grief. And as the night drags on, as the Pope's horrific decree unfolds step by agonizing step, one truth fills the Vatican. Something sacred died in this palace tonight. If you've stayed with us through this descent, if this moment made you realize how fragile human dignity is when power loses all restraint, remember this. This is not fiction. This happened under the roof of the man who claimed to represent God on earth, in the heart of the Christian world, and nearly everyone who witnessed it stayed silent. As the first pale light of dawn filters through the windows of the Borgia apartments, Lucrezia has passed beyond exhaustion, beyond fear. Her mind, desperate to survive, has detached itself from the nightmare unfolding around her. She moves mechanically, thoughtlessly, as if her soul has fled her body to escape the horror. She can no longer fight. When the torture is finally complete, Cesare announces triumphantly that the marriage has now been sealed 3 times, stamped in the eyes of both church and law, unchallengeable, irreversible. Alexander VI raises his wine goblet in satisfaction, smiling as if the night had been an extraordinary celebration. What remains are broken cardinals. They had entered in crimson robes as servants of God. Now they stand as unwilling witnesses to an atrocity they can never confess. Their silence, their inaction, has made them accomplices. When the sun fully rises over Rome, it reveals the devastation. Empty wine vessels, chestnuts crushed into marble, exhausted prostitutes curled in corners, guards standing like statues, eyes lowered. In the adjoining room, Lucrezia lies completely still, staring at the ceiling as if it were miles away. Her body is in the room, but her soul is elsewhere, unreachable. Alfonso sits on the edge of the bed, shaking violently, face buried in his hands. Nothing in his life, no battlefield, no political threat, has shattered him like this night. Within days, Alfonso quietly leaves Rome, irreparably broken. He returns to Ferrara with a silence he will carry for the rest of his life. He never speaks of that night again. But the story cannot be contained. News of the feast spreads like plague. Whispers in Roman streets turn into murmurs across Italy, then explode into reports sent to courts throughout Europe. Ambassadors write encrypted letters. Priests speak in veiled warnings. Nobles read the news in shock and disbelief. The Venetian representative writes the famous line, "What transpired in the Vatican surpasses even the darkest fantasies of ancient Rome." The Borgias had been feared before, but now they are seen as corruption itself. In marketplaces and taverns, people lower their voices when pronouncing their names, as if the family itself could hear whispers. Lucrezia moves to Ferrara and desperately tries to build a normal life. She finances charities, patronizes artists, nurtures literature and beauty. But those who see her privately describe the same thing. A permanent sadness, a quiet melancholy, eyes that have seen too much. She has children with Alfonso, but their marriage, irreversibly poisoned by that night, remains a hollow shell. They live side by side, separated by a wound no human can repair. Lucrezia dies young, at 39, giving birth to her 8th child. On her deathbed, she requests a priest and prays until her final breath. Her recorded last words are, "I am finally ready to be free." Freedom, the thing denied to her throughout her entire life. Alexander VI dies just months after the feast. Rumors whisper that poison, his frequently used tool, finally turned back on him. Cesare Borgia, stripped of power after his father's death, dies alone in a Spanish ambush. His body mutilated and thrown into an unmarked grave, far from the glory he believed was his destiny. But the night of October 30th, 1503, does not die with them. That night becomes a symbol, an icon of corruption, so violent it fuels the flames of the Protestant Reformation. Martin Luther and others cite the Borgias again and again as proof of the Vatican's rot. The Counter-Reformation that follows is partly an attempt to erase this family's stain from history, yet the truth survived. Centuries later, Johann Burchard's diary resurfaces, dragging the event back into light, refusing to let it be forgotten. Even today, more than 500 years after that night, the Chestnut Feast and the Triple Shame stand as infamous reminders of what happens when absolute power loses all restraint. But what disturbs me most about this story is this. Not just that it happened, that nearly everyone in that room, cardinals, nobles, witnesses, stayed, watched, remained silent, became accomplices through their inaction. Because speaking up meant risking everything. Their positions, their lives, their families. And so they placed their own safety above the dignity of two people being destroyed before them. This is not just history, this is a mirror. It warns us that humanity's darkest acts are often committed in the places that should be most sacred. Evil thrives not only through the actions of monsters, but through the silence of witnesses. Edmund Burke once wrote, "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing." On that night in 1503, in the heart of the Vatican, good men did nothing, and two innocent people paid the price. You have witnessed one of history's darkest truths. If stories like this remind you how fragile humanity is, how easily dignity can be crushed when power loses its conscience, subscribe to Sable Historians. Help us keep digging through archives. Help us uncover the records that powerful institutions have tried to bury for centuries. Because the past is not dead. It watches and warns, and it's up to us to listen.